to another episode of the Leadership Lens, where we speak with global leaders about what's trending in the ecosystem. All conversations till date have been tactical, insightful, but these leaders have really brought in their expertise from various spheres of marketing and business to help you build the best brands in a post-pandemic world. Today, we have with us a serial entrepreneur and one of the most respected names in the advertising world, Vivek Bhargav, who is the co-founder of ProfitWheel. Welcome, Vivek. It's great to have you on the Leadership Lens.
Thanks for having me, Shiny. Pleasure to be here.
I think many of us know him better as the CEO of iProspect India, that is the Denstu Performance group. His latest venture, ProfitWheel, is an adtech SaaS company that aims to connect the adtech and the martech worlds. ProfitWheel has raised capital and has a US subsidiary headed by Mr. Aman Khanna called the ProfitWheel Incorporated. So coming to some fun facts about Vivek, he's a prolific angel investor. He's also been on a reality show called The Vault that is funding innovative startups. He's a TEDx speaker. He's an author where he talks about happiness. He is an advisory board member for adtech. He's a regular speaker at many national and international events and conferences. He has been awarded many times for his invaluable contributions to digital marketing. He's been called the Marketeer of the Year several times and one of the top 50 digital icons of India. He is the co-owner of Goa Challengers in the Ultimate Table Tennis League, which is the country's first ever professional TT league. And of course, now is the time for ProfitWheel. So I think, Vivek, two of my favorites are the Goa Challengers one and the ProfitWheel one. So this is super impressive, Vivek. While I was doing research for this bio, I was like, wow, you know that there are like a lot of things that you've accomplished so far. So to start with, Vivek, I believe congratulations are in order. So let's jump into this big opportunity that you are now pursuing. Tell us a little more about ProfitWheel.
So Shani, the way I look at it, ProfitWheel actually is a dream for me. I believe that in great attempts, it is glorious even to fail. So my big, hairy, audacious goal obviously is to connect the advertising world with the marketing world, but also in the long run, shift all the advertising expenses from the profit and loss account and make it a part of the balance sheet. So when you do that, it becomes a cost of sale. And then there is no cap on spending. You can spend $1 billion a day for a client as long as you're able to give him more revenues than what his margin is. So the way I look at it is, although this is a large problem to solve, so before that, you have to solve smaller problems. So the first problem you want to solve is that I feel that although 20% of the customers give you 200% of their profits, there is not enough marketing intelligence available to brands. So how do you target similar of those 20% of the customers? So we're building a suite of products in ProfitWheel, which basically cover marketplaces. So Amazon advertising to a certain extent. We are the youngest Amazon advertising partners in the world. But we also are building something for Facebook and Instagram, which is basically covers the storefront for the brands. And lastly is influencer commerce. So I'm very, very gung-ho about what's happening in the influencer space. So we're building a suite of products where we're going to help brands identify which influencers they should work with so that with the right marketing intelligence, they can target the right influencers to work with. So again, this is the long-term goal of what we want to achieve in ProfitWheel. I was very clear that if I take up and don the hat of entrepreneurship all over again, it has to be a product company. So 20 years in services, now I've finally launched something which will be a product company, which is planned to be a scaled global product company. So that's where it is. And I'm very excited to start this. Although it's been in stealth for almost a year, now we are about to launch our products and we're doing a pilot with a lot of brands in India and globally. So really excited about coming out with ProfitWheel and what we plan to do with it.
Absolutely. I think this is a great venture, Vivek, because a lot of the marketers that we speak to, and of course, a lot of the marketers that you speak to are, you know, these are the typical challenges that they face. So you're focusing on D2C and with a SaaS product. So why do you think this is the right time to launch? You said you've been in stealth mode for a year. So why do you think this was the right time to launch such a product?
See, first of all, Shiny, D2C industry itself, it's a $100 billion industry only in India. So when you look at it globally, It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. If you take traditionally, people who spend about 10 to 11% of the advertising marketing budgets on advertising, the D2C spends actually 50 to 70% of their budgets on advertising. Because what happens is when they acquire a customer once, they don't have to pay the distributors and stockists and retailers over and over again every month. So they can definitely look at acquiring the right customer. Our entire algorithm of ProfitWheel is focused on helping people find their best and most profitable customers. So D2C brands are also much more bothered about the customer lifetime value, because the same person buys from them again and again, and there is no middleman once you acquire the customer. So you don't have to pay the distributor again and again. So the cost of acquisition in a way can be subsidized by the customer lifetime value. And because the algorithms are built on finding brands, their most profitable customers, D2C is the industry that we need to focus on. And you say, why now? I think that, there is no right time to be an entrepreneur. Whenever you feel you want to become an entrepreneur, you must take that route. And I believe that right now, I think the best time for India. So what happened in sort of Silicon Valley 20 years ago, what happened in China last 10 years, the same thing is going to happen in India in the next 10 years. I think the hundreds and thousands of, hundreds of unicorns being created, but tens of thousands of $100 million companies and probably lakhs of $10 million companies. So I think this is the best time to become an entrepreneur in the country. You can get capital easily, you can get talent, you can build a global company out of India. And I think I'm just fortunate to be in this place where today I can take the second role of entrepreneurship again in a product company. And this is probably the best time for India to start a company.
I think for a lot of people listening to this is a very, very, positive looking answer. I think a lot more, it'll be a lot of encouragement for a lot of entrepreneurs who are kind of sitting on the fence and karu na karu type of situation. So Vivek, coming to my third question, we're seeing increasing digital transformation is accelerating SaaS adoption clearly. The aim is to perform analytics and AI and data management applications. According to you, what is the biggest opportunity here? And what also are the challenges that you're really planning for?
I think, Shani, the biggest opportunity today is helping brands use their customer data. So as everybody calls it, the first party data, using customer data to find out who are your most profitable customers, and then how can you acquire similar people to your most profitable customers? Because as I said earlier, 20% of the customers in D2C kind of industries give you 200% of the profits. It's not even the 80-20 Pareto rule, but it's 20-200 rule when you look at profits as a metric. The other thing is that once you identify your most profitable customers, you can actually sort of create an acquisition strategy which is based on the customer lifetime value rather than just the CAC that you want to sort of acquire the customer for. I think the biggest opportunity today is that we are living in this new distribution age where there are three basic verticals, right? There is marketplaces, so Amazon and Flipkarts of the world. There is a clear social acquisition, which is through Instagram, through Facebook, but for your own storefront. And the third is the influencer space. I personally invested in about 9 companies in the influencer space. I feel influencer industry is going to be 10 times the size of the advertising industry. So I feel that the biggest opportunity is how can we use marketing intelligence and how a platform like ProfitWheel can provide you the marketing intelligence so that in-house teams as well as agencies can acquire or help the brands acquire their most profitable customers. If that one single change we can do and we can create a sniper-based advertising approach rather than a spray gun-based advertising approach, that can make a huge difference on how brands use advertising. Because I believe that our baseline of ProfitWheel is profit as a service. So I feel that if we can have a sniper-based approach towards acquiring the right customers who are most profitable customers for the brand, I think that's the value we can deliver to all brands. And that's a huge opportunity in the world.
So I like that tagline, Vivek, profit as a service. I think it is very, very important for D2C brands who are working with, smaller marketing budgets to be extremely precise in the kind of people they're spending money on the kind of audience that they are targeting. So the D2C industry, interestingly, I mean, it's the biggest buzzword today. And it's not it's no longer a business strategy, it's become a marketing strategy, honestly. Every legacy brand that I'm talking to has gotten into a D2C strategy. So what, according to you, are the biggest takeouts for legacy brands? People who are used to selling their products at a retailer and never really communicating with their clients or their consumers directly. What are the biggest takeouts for them? What can they learn from digitally native direct sellers?
So Shani, the way we look at ProfitWheel, we are a SaaS company that helps brands in the new distribution age. So D2C comes into that sector, but new distribution age requires marketplaces, social media, and influencers. And I think marketing intelligence is the most important part of it, and using first-party data is the most important part of it. The challenge is that traditional companies actually never had first-party data. And it's only took something like a COVID to come in to make them realize that they can go from 100 crores of revenue to zero because they didn't have first-party data. And there was no way for them to communicate with their customers whom they've had for tens of years. So I think today that has become the biggest opportunity for traditional brands of how they can go about a first-party data acquisition strategy. And what we do is that we use the first-party data of the brands and give them marketing intelligence to identify which out of those people are their most profitable customers and what should be the way to acquire those similar customers all over again. So that is where I think we want to play a role as ProfitWheel. But the thing is that D2C as a sector is just not about direct to consumer. I think direct D2C is almost like a philosophy. So the fact of the matter is that traditional brands will have to learn, how do you take data-driven decisions? How do you focus on the customer lifetime value rather than just the CAC? How do you actually think in a manner where you don't worry about the stockist and distributors and dealers, etc., and actually have a one-to-one communication with your customers? You need to have a sort of a first-party data acquisition strategy. You need to have a content strategy where you are almost becoming a publisher for the customers you're going to work with, and you're not interrupting content through advertising as what you've done on television all your life. So I think it's going to be a very, very challenging task for most traditional brands. So they are playing in the D2C space, but they are playing a very half-hearted game. They are asking the same teams to do the same work and also do D2C. It doesn't work. I think it requires a complete DNA overall. They need to sort of fund companies, set up separate teams. Otherwise, the immune system of the organization will attack the small D2C brand they're trying to establish. So I think D2C is a huge opportunity for traditional brands. They will have to almost like go back to the drawing board, start with a lot of things they need to do, which requires content creation, using QR codes to acquire sort of first-party data, looking at digital as the main cost of sort of doing business and acquiring customers, looking at lifetime value, focus a lot more on analytics, use a lot of marketing intelligence from products like ProfitWheel. If they don't do all these things and they just think that by creating a D2C brand, they're going to be able to compete with D2C companies in India or any other part of the world, they are in for a surprise. So it's going to be a challenging task, but it's going to take some brave traditional brands to do what it takes to go and compete in the D2C world.
Absolutely. I think a lot of brands have been surprised and not pleasantly while dipping their toes into this. And so, Vivek, you spoke about how D2C is a philosophy, it's a specialization, and there are this whole range of things that you need to start thinking about while if you want to do D2C, and data being at the the core of it. So as a legacy brand, if they want to start collecting data or they want to start investing in collecting first party data, what is your advice to them? How should they really start doing this?
So, Shani, when I look at ProfitWheel, we started almost a year ago. And generally, I actually feel like Nostradamus. I feel like I was transported to August of 2021 and I saw what was happening and I was able to go back to August 2020 and start a company. Because one of the things we anticipated was that cookies are going to go away. There were already enough writings on the wall, but also we knew that the walled gardens are going to become higher and the Facebooks and Apples of the world are going to make their data more specific to themselves. I think also I was looking at that the D2C companies are going to become much larger. And we saw that happen because I think COVID accelerated it, but direct to consumer companies are going to be the future of distribution. We saw all those things, and then we realized that the first party data is going to be the most important thing for brands. And our entire suite of products, Shiny, is built on first party data. So our first party data product runs across every single 3 platforms of distribution, but it gives you the marketing intelligence to acquire most profitable customers. And it's licensed to agencies, licensed to brands, right? So the first party data collection, I think, is very critical for brands. And my belief is that it's never too late. So I'll give you an example. I've invested in this company called Genuine Mark. What they do is they put QR codes on, let's say, Bisleri bottles, and they're having a scan rate of almost 30%, but they're collecting millions of scans every month of customers who are their best customers of Bisleri. Now they can actually then get marketing intelligence from them, and they can target other people who are similar to them. They can actually go into new markets using that data. They actually know what phones they're using. There's a lot of first party data allows you to get a lot more insights for the customer. I think brands will also have to collect first party data through content. So let's say there's another investment of mine called Celebrity School. Celebrity School does something like masterclass, but for local, regional, or Indian celebrities and regional languages. But a lot of brands are looking at sponsoring that content for free in return for somebody who buys a certain amount of products. But then you get first party data of that person because he's consuming your content. I feel that direct to consumer brands will also be creating a lot more content in traditional brands. If traditional brands want to collect first party data, again, they'll have to become quasi publishers. But I think this has been done in the past, right? P&G and some of the other companies have baby sites who, because of that, they were able to collect a lot more first party data than other traditional brands. So I think I would look at it, use your packaging more effectively, use QR codes more effectively, create content of your own because of which you will collect this, and then have a first party data strategy. I think the whole organization must be driven to collect first party data. It has never been important for traditional brands to collect first party data. So I think that whole shift from the top, right, where the CEO of the company itself makes this a mandate that if I have 100 million customers in India, I want to make sure that in the next 5 years, I must have 100 million plus first party data. We don't have that goal from the top and the whole organization is geared to collecting that data, then you will not be able to take any action on it. And if they have first party data, they can get so many actionable insights for marketing, for content creation, for creative, for everything they want to achieve. So if you want to survive and remain relevant as a brand in any country, collection of first party data of your customers at least, I think should be the primary goal for that organization.
Absolutely. And this needs to be, you're clearly saying this needs to be a top-down approach. It needs a complete revisit of the kind of mindset with which these companies have been running till date. So a lot of companies, have started doing this in the last 1 year. It like you said, it became imperative to suddenly, when everything is locked down, you need this kind of information. How do they now take it to the next level? How do they scale it up?
Shani, I think what we discussed in the last question, right? I think that top-down approach is essential to take a once scale more, right? I think if you just look at it today, if any of the larger brands, 10 to 13% of an FMCG budget goes on advertising. Some of these brands have 500 crores, 800 crores, 1,000 crores of advertising. So the way I look at it is that if you want to collect first party data, you need to engage with customers directly. So can you spend 10%, 20%, 30% of your budget towards content creation? So let me tell you what my thought about digital advertising is and how content becomes a very important strategy, both from a digital point of view as well as first party data collection point of view. If you take, there are 3 pillars of digital. There is paid media, there is organic, and the third is social. What happens is if you have content, you can get same paid media at half the cost because relevancy on Google and Facebook gives you the same media at cheaper cost because there is higher CTR, there's higher quality score, you get it at cheaper prices. So even if you spend 30% of your budget on content creation, if you get the same click at half the cost, you actually save money, but you still build your own IP. All of organic traffic comes only from content, right? Because Google's job is to make sure that the most relevant target audience comes based on the keyword the person searched for, and content creates the relevancy. So content gives you a multiplier for organic traffic. All of EdgeRank on Facebook, all depends on relevancy and engagement of the audience. So you get a higher engagement with the consumer if you audience are engaged with you as a on social media. So content creates engagement. So if you ask me, there are three pillars of digital. Content creates a multiplier for all the three pillars. So my recommendation is, if you really want to push the pedal, can you allocate 30% of your budget, of your total advertising budget, towards content creation? Can you become one of the largest publishers in that industry and then use that to reduce your cost of acquisition across all the three pillars? So I'm saying is that it's not a risk. You try it with, take 10% of budget, put 3 rupees out of the 10% and create content and use the 7 rupees for advertising. If that 10 rupees gives you better ROI than what your remaining 90%, which is spent only on advertising, gives you, then you can take that approach. And what we are trying to do in ProfitWheel is, we can put your first party data into our platform. And what it does is, it tells you affinity of your highest value customers towards anything. So I can tell you that, okay, they like French wine, or they like Formula One, or they like boxing, or they like baseball, or they like anything. So based on that, even your content creation strategy can be actually built based on your most profitable customers. So let's say you have 100,000 customers and 10,000 of them are your high value customers who give you most of your profits. A tool like ProfitWheel, what it does is, it'll take those 10,000 customers and give you marketing intelligence that what is the affinity these 10,000 people have versus the remaining 90,000. So if you can create content for those 10,000, not only will attract more people who are similar to those 10,000, but also that becomes your perfect acquisition strategy to acquire more profitable customers. So I think the needle needs to be the now sort of change, and we need to sort of push the pedal on content creation. And I hope some of the brands use products like ProfitWheel for marketing intelligence to create the right content and invest substantial budgets towards content creation. I think that would be the way to push the pedal.
So that's a great strategy to have, Vivek. I know the consumers become more conscientious in the last 1 year. We are definitely doing a lot more research into buying what we need to buy. We're definitely investing in products which are, worth their while, or worth the money that we're spending on them. I think these are habits that have kind of gotten ingrained into us, and content is key to all this, to the research, to the value of the product, to seeing other people use it, influencers, how they're marketed. I think this becomes really, really keen, and a brand should really invest in, these strategies going forward. So coming to, the famous, most important or the most relevant conversation that's happening now, Vivek, which is the cookieless world that's coming. I know Google has given us some breather by pushing it by a year, but how do you look at scale happening in a cookieless world? What are you planning to do? What should brands be planning to do?
Okay, so if you honestly ask me, right, I think ProfitWheel was started to be in a cookieless world. So from day one, our marketing intelligence products were built on using your first party data to target your most profitable customers. It's almost like a sniper approach rather than a spray gun approach. But I think the cookieless world is a bigger problem than just cookies, because what happens is the Apple and Facebook are creating larger walled gardens of their own customers. In some cases, with Apple new updates on their iOS, you can actually not even get data of your own customers if you have an app store. People have downloaded your app, which countries they're coming from, that itself can be masked in many places. So it's going to be a very challenging world. Even email opens today are tracked by a pixel, which in a cookieless world will be a challenge. So the way I look at it is that I think people will have no choice but to have a first party data strategy and then build marketing intelligence so that you can target those customers based on their affinities rather than cookies. And I think the way we built ProfitWheel from day one was to sort of prosper in the cookieless world. And I think there are going to be different solutions that are going to come up there. The world is facing this problem. But I think the biggest thing that's going to happen is that when we started off, we wanted to connect the advertising world with the marketing world. I think that is what I think is going to happen. And that process is going to get accelerated because now you won't have a choice. Retaining your best customers will be almost essential for you to survive and remain relevant. So one example that I would like to give is that, let's say I'm browsing the web and I see advertising. let's say of a pizza and a burger, I ignore it, and then I download or I click on a keto salad ad or a salad ad and download Swiggy, then Swiggy must give me a keto salad offer rather than give me a pizza offer. So if you, because the most important thing to Swiggy is the first transaction. So I think basically, if we can take that information from the advertising world and transfer to the marketing world, we can make marketing and advertising both more effective. Similarly, if I am looking at and withdrawing a certain amount of money from an ATM, and I withdraw 10,000 rupees at a time and somebody else withdraws 100 rupees at a time, now both of us could be interested in different kinds of products based on just that one metric of how much money we withdrew. Can we transfer that information from the marketing world into the ad tech world and then use it effectively? So the reason, one of the reasons why Netcore is a very close partner of ours in ProfitWheel is because they are the masters of the martech world, and all our products we build with first party data for the ad tech world. And I think that itself allows us a lot of competitive advantage of connecting both these worlds. But in the cookieless world, connecting the ad tech with the martech is going to be one of the most critical things that companies will have to do. And I'm hoping that this partnership with Netcore and ProfitWheel will allow us to do this for brands and help them remain relevant in this cookieless world.
Absolutely. I think that is a big glimmer of hope that a lot of brands will get when they watch you speaking here. Uh, Vivek, now coming to the agency models that we've been seeing, and you've been a veteran in this space. Marketing's becoming more aligned to business. Marketers are now the new, the business officers. They are the ones who've been driving the growth. They are the ones who've been driving the business revenues. How is this change kind of impacting the agency model, and what are the new models that are emerging out of this, cauldron as we see?
Shani, I think the challenge is writing on the wall. Sometimes what happens is that it takes 20 years for the challenge to become very relevant. But I think a lot of automation is actually automating things that agency folks used to do 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So if you take optimization of digital advertising, a lot of that is getting automated. A lot of creative with GPT-3 is going to get automated. So I think the future of agencies is going to be that at one end, you will have to become a consulting company. The challenge is that we have very, very awesome senior folks who can provide consulting. But after that, there are a lot of junior folks who do the execution. So that combination is going to be that the sort of the junior folks that are there in the agency, that is going to get automated, but the consulting bit of it is going to become more relevant. So I think the future of agency world is going to be that they'll have to acquire tech companies, they'll have to build technology of their own, and AI and ML is going to play a very important role in the day-to-day functionality of an agency. So at one end, they'll have to be a consulting company like a McKinsey. At the other end, they'll have to be a company like a Google or a Facebook or a Microsoft. So the combination of SaaS companies and consulting companies is where I feel the future of agency world is going to be. So there are a lot of challenges. The first challenge they want to solve is that most of the networks in the world acquire about 30 to 40 companies a year. So Communicate2 obviously was one of the acquisitions for Denstu. But when you acquire a technology company, the acquisition is very, very different than how you acquire a services company. First of all, technology companies cost a lot more money than what services companies do. Secondly, retaining the entrepreneurship team may not be as important in a product company. Product companies are more global in nature. So you acquire one company, but they'll exist in 30, 40 countries. So how do you, let's say you acquire a company in Communicate2 in India, but we remain in India. But if you acquire a SaaS company like ProfitWheel tomorrow, which is in 50 countries, then you'll have to integrate that company across 40, 50 countries, which is not easy again, because most of these companies have individual P&Ls. So I think it's going to be a very exciting space. The networks of the world, people like Denstu have prospered over a 100-year period. When I'm part of some global committees of Denstu in the past where I've seen that they're planning for 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead, right? So a lot of these things that I'm discussing, I think is definitely discussed at the leadership levels, and they will have to make a lot of changes, and it's going to be a very exciting time for them. And I'm hoping that companies like Denstu, who are extremely agile, they are the ones who make these changes and prosper in the new age, and some of the others will face more challenges. But I think it's an exciting space. Advertising and marketing is more important than ever before, because the D2C world, if you realize, right, your 10% advertising cost is now going to become 50 to 70% because lifetime value of the user is going to become important again. So I think it's going to be a huge boon for the advertising and marketing industry. The D2C world is actually going to increase the spends on advertising, which is obviously going to benefit all the people in the advertising and marketing world.
That's great to hear. So it's another level of madmen that, that we can look forward to in the coming years, if I understood whatever you said correctly. So coming to my last question for you today, Vivek, and a little future gazing, not too much, but little future gazing. What do you think of the festive season? So it was the festive season that, kind of pulled us out of the slump last year, and everyone was like, thank God this happened. And, the festive season was like, was the life savior. What do you think about the festive season in 2021? Is this the, the ultimate bump that retailers should look forward to?
So, Shani, entrepreneurs are irrationally optimistic. So my friends wrote a book, right? Ethan Gutari wrote a book, but generally I feel that there is going to be a lot of revenge shopping. I can't wait to go and shop. In fact, I had a chance to buy some music speakers and I ordered 2 sets of speakers right now. One of them is delivered today night. So I am really going out for revenge shopping. There has been a lot of savings. We've not traveled. We've not spent money on so many things. So I generally feel that I think in the next 3 to 6 months, things are getting back into sort of, in a way, what the new normal is. And people are going to do a lot of revenge shopping. I'm sure a lot of us want to now go and spend, we want to splurge. And I feel that a lot of people are going to get back to it, right? And I think because a lot of people who are traveling anyway are now sort of fully vaccinated. So I feel that because of that, things are going to get normal faster than ever. Traveling is going to start. And I feel shopping is going to be definitely on everybody's mind. So I'm one of those guys keeping your fingers crossed that I think there is going to be a lot more consumption in India in the next 3 to 6 months. And the festive time is going to be a huge boom for all the people who have suffered over the last 1 year.
Absolutely. So great news for all our retailers watching this today. Vivek, that was a wonderful conversation. You are right. Anyone we talk to today can't wait to start traveling, and of course is already shopping, and the shopping lists are already ready. Wonderful conversation and great insights into the D2C business, because both for D2C brands and for legacy brands are trying to get into this. So thank you so much for this conversation today, Vivek. It was great to have you on the Leadership Lens.
My pleasure, Shiny. Pleasure to be here. Hopefully, I'll have a lot more things to add the next Leadership Lens we do together.
Absolutely. Thank you.